to get an assault weapon, worried that they won't be able to later. Our next guest was the first governor to pass an assault weapons ban back in 1990. Joining us now is Governor James Florio. Governor, good to see you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
The bottom line here is whether or not these assault bans work, whether as a result of putting the assault bans in motion, whether it was the local assault ban or federal assault bans, do they actually reduce gun violence? Is there any proof that that happens?
Well, the answer is that the communities involved all made the determination that the public interest is not served by greater access to Uzis and AK-47s. So the fact of the matter is, there is a sense that if you have a mentally unstable person inclined to violence, is he more dangerous with a baseball bat or a knife or with an Uzi with a 30-round clip? I think so. The common sense approach is that what we need is not more guns, but less guns. And particularly with regard to assault weapons, these are not things you hunt with. These are things that are used in war, specifically designed to kill as many people as rapidly as possible.
Well, the federal assault weapon ban, as you know, it only lasted 10 years, from 94 to 2004. It was not renewed. The president, who now is in favor of renewing it, had an opportunity to do so when he first came in office and had Democrats in both the House and the Senate. He did not do that. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, which is, I think you'll agree, a pretty neutral organization, came out with a very thorough study of whether or not the assault ban reduced gun violence, and this is what they said. They said that the ban and other gun control attempts were insufficient. There is insufficient evidence to determine the effectiveness of any of the firearm laws reviewed for preventing violence. So if the CDC can't see any direct result of these bans and a reduction of violence, what good are they?
Well, the difficulty is, of course, is that they don't have the research money because the NRA has worked feverishly to cut off research money for the CDC to make those determinations.
But the CDC has come out with many reports since then, since 2005. 2004 was when the ban ended, suggesting that there wasn't any direct determining effect on gun violence as a result of these bans.
Actually, what I said was we can't make the determination because we haven't got sufficient research to be able to look into it. I mean, common sense tells you we have 300 million...
Let me just stop you there. There's been a tremendous amount of research that's been done on both sides. As you know, there is money, obviously there's money in the NRA, but there's also money pouring into the anti-gun groups as well.
No, the research, a neutral observer would be the CDC. They need more money for research. Nobody has come to a conclusion one way or the other. I say common sense tells you that to the degree that you're talking about these military weapons that have no use whatsoever for civilian purposes being out there. And you know, how many people have to die in these different tremendous massacres with these weapons that by definition are designed to kill people?
Well, you say there's no purpose of it. There are millions of Americans that do buy these weapons. The AR-15, I believe there are 2 million Americans who bought the AR-15s. Good law-abiding citizens who have bought them, overwhelmingly so. Peggy Noonan, who is a Republican, but I think you'll agree is a pretty fair-minded person, not always a partisan observer of things, was on the talk shows yesterday. Here's what she said about people who do decide to buy guns. Let's play that tape.
They also have guns because they are afraid. They think their society and their are very frail and in trouble. They think someday they may be on their own. They want guns to protect themselves and protect their families. I think that has to be respected and not denigrated.
Don't you agree that the right to choose to buy a gun has to be respected?
Well, there's a difference between a gun and an assault weapon ban.
But Peggy was talking about all
guns
of those
in general.
guns. Yes.
And there is a right to have a constitutional right to have a gun. But the court decision also was that reasonable restrictions on ownership of gun are permissible. Even talk about reasonable restrictions.
But isn't that restricting the type of person who buys a gun and making sure that the checks are done as well as they should be?
Well, that's a whole different issue. And the checks right now, I was embarrassed to watch the Congress earlier in the year take up a bill ban the ability to sell a gun to a person on the terrorism list. The bill didn't pass. So today, someone on the terrorism list is eligible to go buy a gun. That makes no sense whatsoever.
Governor, if we can just talk about the fiscal cliff, because you have a lot of experience with taxes. In fact, a lot of people say that you lost re-election because of the tax issue, because you instituted taxes, and many people felt you betrayed a promise the way the first President Bush did. You raised taxes, were voted out of office. Actually, Governor John Corzine, one of your predecessors, also raised taxes, was voted out of office. Is there a political risk to doing this?
Well, there's a political risk to doing nothing, And the question is, what do you buy with the taxes? Well, if you think that services are being provided adequately, then fine, you don't need revenues. But if there is a need for services, then you need revenues.
But the president's increased spending by $800 billion a year. That's a 25%. He's only going to get $100 billion by raising taxes. That's under the best case scenario. He's still going to need $700 billion.
I suspect what's happening now is no one wants responsibility for increasing taxes on the 98% of people who make less than $2,000. So you're going to have an accommodation.
Governor James Florio, wonderful to see you, Governor. Thank you for coming in. Appreciate it. Merry Christmas.